Hello and welcome to the GYDA podcast. And today I am absolutely delighted to have with me Barnaby Wynter. Hello, Barnaby.
Hello, Robert. As ever, great to be here.
Good. So Barnaby is a name known to lots of people in the community, partly because he's spoken at the conference, partly because some time ago he wrote this book, The Brand Bucket, Make Your Marketing Work. But more importantly, he's now got a brand new book, okay, which is the Go-To Brand, which has just recently come out. It is one of the few marketing books I have read cover to cover, which is remarkable because I have the attention span of someone with a very small attention span. But without further ado, Barnaby, welcome. Tell us, give us why another book? Why the book? Why this book? Just give us some outline and background.
Well, as you know, Robert, everything in marketing continues to change. The Brand Bucket Make Your Marketing Work book was really a summary of a methodology which has proven itself to be successful from the period 1985 through to when the book was published in 2010. A lot has changed since 2010, of course. In particular, we are really seeing the impact of the online arena on how buyers buy. And having run an organization throughout that period, it's become absolutely apparent that many things that were really alluded to in the first book needed some explanation, needed some help. And what people were saying to me is the first book is a fantastic what to do book, but how do we do it? And of course, in attempting to address that over the last decade, I kept finding that as I was writing it, things changed and things changed again. And then probably just prior to COVID, things started to settle down and to really make sense. And so therefore, I've been able to capture that, put that in the book, and then because of COVID, left the publishing of that until early on this year. So it is really taking the Brand Bucket methodology and turning it into something that you can actually use and apply to your brand right now.
So I noticed, one of the sub-chapter headings is "Everything's changed, nothing's changed," which is something that I think both of us say quite often. So let's just start off with what's the nothing's changed? What's the customers are still customers. They still have wants, needs, hurts, itches, scratches. So what in your mind is the stuff that hasn't changed? What are the fundamentals that we need to kind of get to grips with?
Well, I think there's still an absolute need to find brands that resonate with you individually, whatever context you're operating in, whether it's a private individual or as within the B2B corporate space. There is still a need to gather information in terms of what makes you want to buy a particular product or service. And more importantly, there's still recognition that having a strong brand relationship is critical to differentiating yourself in the marketplace. I don't think any of those are particularly changed.
But, and we all know it, Simon Sinek, had to mention the name, Simon Sinek, let's tell everyone about our why, because if we tell people about our why, they're going to be banging on the door. Or I know what we're going to do. We're going to go onto LinkedIn, and what we're going to do is we're going to write lots and lots of content. And then when people are ready to buy from us, they'll remember all the content we've written, and they'll come and buy from us. So that stuff isn't right then.
No, I'm afraid none of that works anymore. And I think if you're under the misguided belief that that might be a good thing to do in the marketplace, I think you're entirely barking up the wrong tree. What has become absolutely apparent now with the new digital knowledge economy is that people who are empowered are the buyers. The thing about he who cannot be mentioned in my world, and start with why, is it filled a fantastic vacuum when it came out in 2009 and beautifully summarized the previous 10 years of marketing activity. It was a great summary book, but in the vacuum, it's kind of become the modus operandi. What actually happened in 2009, 2010 is people realized they were in control of the buying. And it wasn't really down to what prior to that, brand owners have been in control. So therefore they could squirt out as much information they want, try and differentiate their product, say how great it was, say why they were doing it, all of those sorts of things. And actually in 2010, we were kind of 10, 12 years into the internet. People were saying, no, actually, I can decide what I'm looking for, what information I'm going to resonate with. And in shifting that power control, that also was met with just a simple, mind-boggling explosion of the number of choices, options, websites, etc., etc. So actually what started to happen then is people were in full control of the buying process, but then they were overwhelmed by all of this, why you should buy from us, what's cool about our product, what's cool about our service. And of course, people just went, whoa, 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 stop, stop, stop. I am hurting here from all this information. And that's what's been reframed over the last decade to a point where now there's some really significant strategies that you need to be pursuing in order to engage your buying community.
So are you saying that I now identify myself as a New Balance sneaker wearer, and the ones I really liked were the New Balance 420s, and I'm going to go off looking for the New Balance 420s, or that I've been recommended a book, so I'm going to go and find it, whereas in the past it was good enough, lovely phrase for agencies, brands, just to squirt out their message, almost like the original kind of brand adverts, which in train toilets and stuff like that, where, oh my god, a brand of soap, I must buy it because it says it. So it's a flip from interruption marketing to something more subtle.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think interruption marketing really isn't working anymore, because we are being interrupted by every single physical surface in the world has got some kind of message on it, and therefore our brains are absolutely overloaded with messages that are being shouted at us, screamed at us, etc., etc. So we've learned to discount that on the grounds that we know we can go into the information industry, we can go into the arena of your Googles and your Amazons and your mobile phones, and decide at what point you're going to enter into a buying decision mode. And at that point, you become very, very focused on what you're looking for, what kind of problem you've already identified, what kind of need you've already identified, what kind of desire you've already identified. And actually what you do is you then become very focused, and then you enter into this array of mass information with a very, very specific objective, which is to find the brand relationship with which you are going to spend your money.
Okay, so I'm not sure which bit of this you want to answer, but I'd like answers to both. So the first bit is, become, title of the book, become the go-to brand, mastering inbound marketing strategy, become the go-to brand. So I got two questions. The one is there a way, because prescription without diagnosis is malpractice, is there a way, a generalized way of becoming a go-to brand? And more importantly, how does this relate to digital agency leaders? So I'll let you choose which bit of that you wish to answer.
Well, okay, let's start with two key pieces of breakthrough thinking, I think, from my point of view, that have become apparent in the last 5 years. 88% of all buying decisions start online. If you're a digital agency owner and you are in control of online communication and able to advise clients, hallelujah, you've got yourself a business. Fantastic. 88% of buying decisions start online. But combined with that, at point of first contact, people have made 57% of the decision to buy. In other words, when they contact you as the seller of a product or service for the very first time, They are more likely to buy from you than not buy from you. Now, if you think about the journey between that point and when people wake up in the morning and say, I've got a need, a desire, a want, a challenge, whatever, where they know nothing about who's selling what in the marketplace, there's a heck of a strategic intent between I know nothing about you and I am contacting you because I'm more likely to buy from you than not buy from you. There's a big piece of work that you have to do. And that piece of work belongs to the people who understand the online arena. So as a digital agency, you ought to be sitting with your clients and saying, we understand the online arena, rather than we know how to get impressions, click-throughs, spreadsheets, blah, blah. That's all kind of irrelevant, because that, unfortunately, is born of the broadcast mindset that once was the advertising agency. And all that's happened is that's moved from being a telly ad in the middle of your favorite program to being blasted somewhere online when you're operating your favorite website. And they're exactly the same, but actually that is not what is going on anymore. What is going on is people will wake up in the morning and say, I need to do something, and then they're Googling it. Their brain starts to put in keywords and phrases into a search engine. No results so far. They click return and a whole page of results comes up. Smart ones ignore the top ones because they're ads and they're paid for, and they're probably not going to answer the question anyway. And then they go into the organics, of which there's only a few now, and they dig around and search, or they go onto Instagram, or they go onto TikTok or whatever, or YouTube, and they key in these key phrases and look for information and help. And this is the critical thing here, Robert. They are looking for help to buy, because they're overwhelmed by lots of people going, me, here's my why, this is why I'm great, blah, blah, blah. There's thousands of those. And people are going, no, stop. I'm very clear on what I want to achieve. And so what they're looking for is to build a relationship with an organization, a product, a service, which enables them to solve the need and the problem they've got. Because you know what characterizes start with why briefs that we were seeing as an agency is, of course, people coming in saying, this is the problem you've got, haven't you? And I go, oh gosh, I didn't realize I had that problem. Well, you do now, because I've told you. If you look on your left shoulder, you'll see there's the problem. You go, gosh, I've never spotted that before. And actually they sold problems into the market. They created needs. They created desires. Actually, people know now that they don't need to be told that. It's bad enough. Life is tough enough as it is without being told by brands that I've got a problem. So actually they know their problem, they know their desire, they know how to uplift, they know how to improve the quality of their life. And so they're going online. And so what they're looking for are brands now that demonstrate care about their need, about their desire, their want, and critically and strategically help the buyer make sense of the buying decision. Now think about the digital agency world, to kind of separate the sort of bring in the second question, is they're so focused on executing campaigns, that getting results, demonstrating ROI, and some smart ones saying ROE, because it means they don't actually have to justify anything they're doing. You know, that actually all of those things, that's not what people need help on. What they need help on is they need to have a strategy where you produce content which helps people make sense of buying decisions. And if you can demonstrably do that and create pathways that are unique and differentiated through making sense to your particular product or service, then people will follow those, because they go, this relationship is looking after me, it's looking after my buying decision, it's looking after my style of doing things, all of those kinds of things. And if you do that well, in the end, you become the only person they want to buy from, at which point you become the go-to brand in your sector.
So there's, playing devil's advocate, there's lots of clicks and commas and assumptions put in that, because you talk it through quite quickly.
That's
This,
what stories are.
then this, therefore this, so therefore this. So
Yes.
it feels like I'm not going to deconstruct the whole thing, but I would argue that nearly everyone listening here right now has heard the message endlessly. Sort out your value prop. Now I know you have a slightly different definition. It should be value propositions or values proposition. Apologies. But what we're both saying is, guys, gals, until you've sorted out how you present yourself to the marketplace, until you've sorted out what the customer gets, until you've sorted out what you stand for and what you don't stand for, all the other marketing tactics are kind of futile, because you just look like everyone else. So everyone claims, I would argue, the majority of people here have claimed they've really sorted out their proposition, and yet you and I know that you can play buzzword bingo on most websites. We are the trusted advisor. In fact, I looked up award-winning digital agency in inverted commas on Google, and there are 362,000 websites that claim to be an award-winning digital agency. So that's not desperately unique or desperately special, but everyone's an award-winning trusted advisor, Google Premier Partner, focusing on what makes us different from the rest is we do what everyone else does, except we do it slightly cheaper. They've kind of failed to focus on points of difference, I would call it, focusing on, for some reason, competing on points of parity. We do what everyone else does. We got a dog, all that kind of stuff. How do you think that the agencies can differentiate themselves so that when, I mean, my thing is, when you go to the website, you go, oh, I've arrived. This is lovely. You've read 10 words. Let's go down. If you can't describe your proposition in 8 words, you've not got a proposition. But the thing, and these are bright people running these agencies, how do you present yourself in a way that isn't the same as everyone else, that doesn't win buzzword bingo hands down?
It's actually much easier than you think, but it relies on something that often agency owners find very difficult, and that's they've got to get out of the way of themselves. And that's the biggest challenge, particularly if you're running any kind of creative stroke, functional stroke, whatever organization like an agency. You've got to get out of the way of yourself. And the moment you do that, you kind of look and see what's left. And actually what's left is a thing that pays your mortgage, the thing that pays for your staff, the things that pay for growth, the things that pay for return and profit. And that is the people who buy from you. And what you've got to do is you've got to orientate everything in your organization, operationally, relationship-wise and everything, around the people who buy from you. And the way to differentiate yourself is to build a value proposition that's in the style of your ideal buyer. Now, there are multiple buyers. The problem with the digital agency world is they're all essentially selling the same thing. It is by its very nature, a commodity industry. It can't be anything else but, if you're reliant on spreading the word via the platforms that are available, because there are only limited number of platforms. So therefore, by very nature, there's more agencies than there are platforms. So therefore, by nature, there must be some agencies that do the same things on the same platforms in the same way as the platforms want. So this is a commodity market. So the first thing you've got to recognize as an agency owner is you're in a commodity market. So what you're selling and what you're doing is broadly the same, at least, as you rightly say, if you're award winning, just of 340,000 odd other agencies. Okay, not a problem, right? We can differentiate from that. That's, it's nonsense. So the first thing you've got to do is got to get out of the way of the product that you sell and what it does, etc., etc. Now, what you need to then do is focus on your prospects. Excuse me. And what you're looking to do therefore is you're looking to differentiate yourself for people so that they say, I like you because you are like me. Now you're looking at millions of selling opportunities, millions of organizations, millions of campaigns. And actually, if you look at your own business plan, you're going to go, I only need 30, 50, 100, 200, 300 of those. You know, there are 5.5 million businesses in the UK. So there's plenty of business to go around for even the award-winning agencies. Forget all the others that haven't won awards. Let's not worry about them, right? Okay, they probably just applied for them and didn't get them, or whatever. It doesn't matter. Now, so what you need to do is orientate your whole storytelling around what it is that makes you special, but do it in the style of people you'd love to work with. And actually, you don't want to work with every Tom, Dick, and Harry. That's just doesn't make sense. You'll be specific in a certain sector or a certain style or a certain size or whatever it is. But actually, they're all demographics. What you need to get into is the mindset, the style. Just the style of doing business, and present your commodity in a style. Otherwise, we wouldn't have multiple supermarkets that sell bread and toilet roll. They're different styles, and different styles of people go to them. And some people pay more for a toilet roll and a loaf of bread than other people. And that's a style issue. It's also an affordability issue. So what you need to do is you need to build your value proposition out on behalf of your prospects, rather than how clever you are, what you do, what your why is, any of that, all nonsense, actually not interested. So you've got to focus on what your behavioral style is, what the benefits are of what you do, because that's kind of threshold stuff, and what you want people to really believe about working with you. They want to dream, a vision, or something that if they work with you, you're going to look after them in a very particular way, which is suited to their style. And if you can do that, you're going to really differentiate yourself in the marketplace. And clearly, you know, if you decide you only want to work with people who wear pink tutus, have bright orange hair, and have 6 toes, your small market, you're going to have a very small market. All right, so that's not as bright. But you'll absolutely find that if you create a prospect profile, there's a particular style, they are out there looking for your services right now. And then what you can do is create a journey which they love, that you'll love, that when they go down it, it makes sense. And by the time they reach, they say, I really want to buy from them. And then you pop up on the website and it works exactly the way you described, Robert. You go, I've come home. I've found a place that gets me. And that's what really happens when people visit websites. They go, a website that gets me. Oh gosh, they don't sell what I thought. I've come to the wrong place. But actually, that's very rare. That's not going to happen. So that's what you want to do. You want to be able to refocus, get out of your own way, and focus on what's going to make your target market go, they get me.
So can you have a number of go-to brands within a narrow marketplace?
So absolutely, because so it depends how you define marketplace. But if the marketplace is people who are in manufacturing, say, yes, absolutely, you can have different go-to brands for different styles of people in the manufacturing industry. And therefore, actually, that's exactly what you can do. And that's what allows us to thrive alongside each other. And actually, or even better still, is linking up with people and finding out that actually they love technical manufacturing or whatever, and they love physical raw materials manufacturing. Those two types of people are very different. And you could have a competitive agency say, we've just had a lead come in from somebody who we feel would fit much better with your go-to brand than our go-to brand. Now, because at the end of the day, you're still providing the same digital services. Yeah, all right, your paper might be pink and theirs is green, and you might do a slightly different tabulation to them, and etc. But the really fundamental of those is exactly the same. But yes, absolutely, in the same way as that, you know, people who go to Waitrose might not go to an Aldi or might not go to a Lidl or whatever. You have different supermarkets selling the same stuff, of course.
So it's in your world, it's how we do stuff that's really important. Sorry to allude to why we do stuff, what we do, how we do it.
Yeah.
But it's the how we do stuff. Come to us because this is how we do stuff. You know what the what is, because it's the same everywhere. It's going to be Google ads, Meta ads, SEO. Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So that's all the same. But if you come to us, this is how we look after you. This is how we do stuff. This is what's important to us. So were agencies wrong when they started showing photos of the agency dog on the football table and told everyone that they're B Corp? And were they totally going down the wrong alleyway when they talked all about themselves in that sense?
That would certainly be my impression. Yeah. Now, what will have confused them momentarily is a few people said, "Oh, I really like your dog or your football table or whatever," and therefore it is operating at the same level. But that is not a marketing strategy. That's not a growth strategy. That's an anecdotal. Oh, we've kissed enough toes and a few have turned them into princes. That's not a strategy that's going to grow a business. What you've got to do is you've got to be much more broad in the psychographic than we go. So I would absolutely astutely avoid all of those things. I just think it's irrelevant. It's irrelevant.
It's like that thing, isn't it? When you look at a website, and I have this, it's like an electric shock. Electrodes have been put around my body, and every time I look at a website and they use the word "we," it's like, oh! It's like, why don't you talk about me? Because I'm the one who's buying. So why don't you talk about what I want and how I feel and so on and so forth? Okay, so what I'm hearing, I'm going to use my 14-year-old mind, is it's a bit like pubs. Like there's loads of pubs, they all serve roughly the same stuff, but you go into one pub and you go, oh yes, I've arrived, this is comfortable, I like this pub. You go into another pub, it goes, oh, it's a bit squeaky, it's a bit posh, or it's a bit rough, or it's a bit, but there are people for all those different types of pubs, quite possibly.
Yeah, it's absolutely. Although you're leaning on the physicality of it, and therefore that's very tempting for people to drift back into this is what our great product is, rather than actually what you would want to find out is if you want to eat, is it a gastro pub? Has it got a great menu? When you walk in, does the whole pub stop talking and turn around and look at you and you feel very uncomfortable, or does the mate, you're greeted by a member of staff, you know, they identify what you want? Do you look cold because you've been on a long walk, and then they say, would you like a table by the fire, blah blah, etc., just elicit whatever, what, you know, here's a menu, we really recommend that. And then when you say to them what beer would go well with this pie, and they go, well, this beer, you know, really complements it because we put that beer in this beer. Yeah, that's when suddenly you'll walk away from that experience thinking, wow, what an amazing experience. I've got a camper van. There's a whole network of pubs that allow camper vans to park in their car parks overnight, as long as you eat in the pub, etc. And that you know that they like our style of thinking, and therefore they think like that, and they know that we probably haven't eaten well for a few days because we've been in the camper van, so they lay it on. And you know, there's so much richness. You're right, it's still just a pub, but the fact that they know they've got an empty car park overnight, they can probably put three motorhomes on there, or camper vans overnight, sell food, sell beer. Nobody's driving off, so they're probably going to drink more than somebody's got to drive home. You know, it's a no-brainer if you build then that kind of we welcome camper van owners, you know, or dog owners, or you know, people wearing football scarves or whatever. It doesn't really matter. You will know that different establishments, and you and I are often frustrated by why hasn't that venue done something as simple as that? Get the toilets right, you know, all those sorts of things. There's so many things you can do around the relationship you're having with people in the outside world who are looking for a simple place to sit and drink and chat and have a great. great time? You know, are there booths? Is it open plan? Are there stalls at the bar? Is it, you know, there's so many things you can sit down and design, you know, an amazing experience for a very particular group of people.
Okay, so I think we need to go back one stage even forward to the 101 question, which is, what is the difference between brand and branding?
So the difference is so fundamental. So a brand is, and we went through a definition process this for the first book, is every experience that affects the relationship between a product or service and its buyer. So let's be quite clear about this. The product or service is defined by a value proposition, which is all about the prospect. The buyer is the defined psychographic profile, how they think, how they feel, what you're going to do to tailor. And then what you've got to do is you've got to put at the very heart of brand the word relationship. And what you've got to do is you've got to sit through every single step of the allegedly 10.4 touches before anybody makes a decision to buy, and make that build a relationship between somebody who's never really thought of doing business with you, but has a problem, a need, desire, challenge, and then parting with cash, and then in fact with brand bucket terms well beyond the purchase. So you've got to build the relationship. And so therefore every single part of your system, your process, your operations, your culture, your communication, your content strategy, everything's all got to be focused on the prospects to build every experience so that it promises this strong relationship. That's a brand. What branding is simply the look and feel of your organization. It's the clothes that your business wears. And at its worst, it's your logo and your look and feel and what your color is and all that sort of thing. That's just, and you know, I can assure you, nobody's ever woken up in the morning and said, do you know what? I really fancy a bit of orange today in my life. And then I'm just going to buy from an organizer that thrives on orange or purple or green or something. Nobody has ever woken up with that in their mind. And so therefore to invest just in that and think that you've got a brand is just beyond nonsense. But if you bring that to life in the style of your prospect in a way that provides experiences at every level and everything, etc., then of course it can help differentiate you. But what people are wanting now is they want to be able to say, you've solved my problem, you've solved my challenge, you've helped fulfill my desires in a style that I really like, that seems to manifest itself as if you care about me. Imagine that.
So I think we're ready now for 282 pages, and actually nearly every single page is like a thought bomb in terms of, oh my god, I've got to go and do this, I've got to go and do that. It feels to me like there's a continuum between the unbelievably simple, just do this and you'll grow your business, versus quite a, I mean, this is quite comprehensive. If you actually start going down all the things you're talking about in the book, there are, I mean, there's enough half-day workshops you could run in your own business.
Absolutely.
You know? So there's obviously a fader between effectiveness and the time you've got. Become the go-to brand. Just give me an overview, for an agency leader about what steps they would need to go through, because I think we're agreed, your concept, your idea, the way people now buy, the way they need a brand, they need to identify with, that's the right way. I think that what agency folk are really struggling with in these difficult times, as AI calls it, is, I need more better customers. How do I do it? I want them now, but it's marketing, but that's for tomorrow. But I need it now. So, I mean, I just like the kind of the TLDR, the short kind of version of some of the steps about how people can become the go-to brand.
Okay, so I think there's there's three key strategic intent that you need to pursue. The first thing you've got to do is you've got to acknowledge that probably everybody that you need to fulfill your business plan right now is out there looking for someone like you. So let's assume that. So the first thing you've got to do is you've got to engage with the marketplace and activate relationships with people who are currently looking for you. There's really two key strategies to that, and that is the first thing you've got to do is you've got to have a content strategy which is insightful for the marketplace and helps them make sense of the buying decision. Because we now know in the digital knowledge economy that the moment we enter into a market, we realize, God, I haven't thought of that, and I didn't think of that, and oh my goodness. And so therefore, get beyond buyer remorse, what you have to do is you have to overload yourself with it, and you've got to become a better expert at buying than actually people selling at you. Otherwise you think, I'm going to make the wrong purchase decision. So you can, as a brand owner, flood the market with, if you're in this kind of situation, or you're doing this, or this is an option, whatever, here are the things. And you can act as an independent broker of all the information out there and become therefore effectively an expert in the eyes of the buyer. And if you do that really well, and you kind of really dominate that marketplace, what happens then is when people go to your competitors, they realize they're not quite as smart as all the information that you've been giving them. And they start to experience a sense of missing out if they don't buy from you. And this is where the concept of FOMO creeps in, is this fear of missing out, because every time they interact with your business, you make sense. So you're producing content that makes people go, do you know what, that kind of makes sense, actually. I hadn't thought of that. That makes sense. Or yes, that is what I'm looking at, and that makes sense. And absolutely, I don't need a 6-inch bolt. I need a 4-inch bolt with a locking nut rather than the 6-inch bolt where I put 3 nuts on it, etc., etc. That makes much more sense, and that would be better and would fit my space, and all of those sorts of things. You can do this with any product. So that's, you're engaging the marketplace. That's strategy number one. The next strategy is then, once you've engaged them, you've got to demonstrate your value. Now, the problem is that isn't telling how many people work for you, or how good you are at spreadsheets, or the fact that you're a Microsoft certified anything, blah, blah, blah. That's not demonstrating. You're award winning, right? It's not demonstrating anything, right? Actually, what you've got to do is you've got to communicate how you benefit people when they give you the money. They give you the money, and then you say, when you give us money, you're going to get this, and there might be some surprises, and you'll get that and everything. And they're going, oh, okay, that's interesting. So they've opened up this vista of stuff that I need to know and make sense. And now I've reached a point where they kind of know what they're doing. So now I'm going to see, oh, and then when I pay my money, I'm going to get this and that, and it's going to do this and going to do that. And so you're going to demonstrate. But the key part of demonstration is to let them have a go, give them a test drive. And that's a key part. And where the world of communication has changed in my career is, before we used to be able to shout at people with clever advertising, and they would come to us, and if the product was any good, they carry on buying it. If not, today it's about engaging people who are already looking for you as a solution, communicating your benefits, and then letting them have a go of your benefits, running a test drive. And that's really cool, because what they do is they integrate you into the way they do things. Okay, this is quite clever. And then, oh, I see, I can do that, and I can do that. And then what you say is, yeah, it's a test drive. We have to take it away. You're not giving us any money. We're not trying. They go, no, stop, don't take it away. I've integrated you. And you go, oh, I'm really sorry, we're not a charity. But don't take it away. Please don't take it away. I go, okay, well, we can't keep giving it to you for nothing. I go, well, what do we do about the relationship? It's really strong. I'm really enjoying it. I'm really sorry. I can't. Oh, I do have one idea now. They go, what is it? What is it? You give us money and we will carry on with the relationship. And they go, oh, we discovered the answer. And that's what they do. And at that point, most marketing people disappear for the hills. They've taken the suspect, they've turned them into a prospect, they turn them from cold to warm to hot, and it's been converted by the business. I'm going to lunch. Don't ring me until tomorrow. Okay, great. The problem is, this is when they pass over the money, hard-earned profit probably in their world, and you abandon them or give them to after sales or aftercare, or put them on the spreadsheet, or give them to the finance department or something. And actually, this is where the relationship's really being tested. It's been valued, it's been appreciated. And actually what you need to then do is deliver. And delivery is as much a marketing strategy as anything else, because the way you box it, the way you deliver it, the way you help people use it, the way you help people get more from it, make sure people love it, and it's no different to our pub. If you go into your pub and they welcome you and they sit down and then nobody comes to take your order for 3/4 of an hour and they've said it's service at the table, you're going to get a bit frustrated. You're going to go, oh, for goodness sake, they're understaffed. Maybe there's nobody in the kitchen, whatever, all of those sorts of things. So actually what you've got to do is you've got to actually build your systems and processes to be amazing so that people just go, wow, this is better than we expected. And do you know what? When you do that, they love spending their money with you and they tell other people about you. And actually what you should be doing is delivering until so much that people just say, I can't help but say, thank you for this. This has been amazing. Our expectation was here. You met that. We gave you the money. And then you completely exceeded that with everything you did. And as a business owner, if you really love your product and your service and the way you do things, and you're really a smart aleck, spend your time building systems and processes that are all about the buyer, all about a key construct that we created a few years ago. And the only difference between being a prospect who hasn't bought your product and a buyer after they bought your product is they have given you money. So we term people who buy from organizations as paying prospects. And what that does is it rewires the whole culture to remember that even when people are buying from you, they should still be treated as a prospect, exactly as if they've not spent the next penny with you. Because if you change your operation, if you change your mindset, if you change your cultural behavior to focus on just prospects, whether they're paying or not paying, you create something that people just want to work with all of the time and never leave.
Boom. So you make it sound easy, or rather you make it sound like a compelling journey, but clearly the majority of businesses are feel like they're failing maybe to be able to roll through this. Is this something purely about discipline? There's some clever quotes about, you know, the cost of discipline is pain, but the cost of lack of discipline is disorganization and even more pain. Is this just about discipline and structure and being grown up about your business?
No, I don't. I'm not sure that's the right territory to be answering the question in. I think I think there's a difference between being a business owner and being a business leader. And I think what you want to do, what I see is people are more focused on being business owners because that's what the world tells them they should be. They should, start a business, build it, get teams in, build systems and processes, and become a business owner. And they can go to the golf club and say, I'm a business owner and all that sort of thing. And it's all enriched. And if they're half smart, they'll make a bit of money as well and drive a nice car, live in a nice house and go on nice holidays. And then everybody goes, oh yeah, he's a business owner. That is different to being a business leader. And I think leadership, if you want to have a thriving community that's called a business, that serves the people that work in it, serves you as the originator of the business, but actually serves the community at large, you've got to learn to park running the business and the old hackneyed in the business piece of mindset and start working on it. And when you start to work on it, you become a leader, a proper leader, because then actually what you're doing and what you do is you look up from your desk and you look out the window and you go, oh my goodness, there's a world out there that's shooting past me. And I think part of what has always brought me success is bringing that kind of outside world into a business. And I'm sure you find the same with the work you do, Robert. And because our focus is, how do I engage Mr. and Mrs. Smith walking down the road don't even know I exist. I've got to be in their world. I've got to add value to their world. I've got to orientate their attention so it comes towards the thing that I'm working for is selling, whether it's for charities or corporates or Fortune 500 companies or FTSE companies or startups. It doesn't matter. Your job, our job as marketing people, is to orientate the great ignoring public around and focus them. Now, what's really exciting right now is they are already turning towards us because of the digital knowledge economy. And that's what's really exciting for the digital industry. But whilst they are still started by people who used to be in advertising and think money's from broadcast, and it's actually how many times I touch people and how much money I can make from that and all that sort of thing, while they're still in the loud hailer broadcast blunderbuss approach to stopping and disrupting people's worlds, they are lost. They are absolutely lost, because actually they've let the outside world, the control for that, they've let it belong to the people who run Insta and X and YouTube and Google and YouTube. They're the ones that are dictating what the lifestyle is that people are leaving, and these guys are just behind. They're just commodity. They're way back when, and of course Microsoft know that they're going to make it marginally difficult to be a certified something, because the focus becomes them as the target market rather than their target market, which is real people. So I think if you want to be a great leader, you've got to look at systems, you've got to look at strategies, you've got to look at processes, you've got to try them, you've got to start to implement, you've got to apply your own approach to those. Don't take them, well, that's the way they are, but actually use them to inform your lens on society, your lens on the world, your responsibilities to engage the outside world. So I think the difference is between being a business owner and being a business leader.
Brilliant. Totally brilliant. Totally brilliant, Barnaby. We're about to come to an end. I guess I'm just going to ask you how you would like this podcast to be remembered. I mean, in some senses, what is it that you wanted people to take away from this conversation that we've had?
Well, listen, I've got to deal with a publisher which I don't make any money unless I sell 5,000 copies, right? So let's be very practical. Yeah, so please buy the book. But actually, where I can be really, really useful to business owners in the next 10 years is the book might be the start point of a new approach to things. And therefore in the book there's a website that you can go to, and there's various resources. The book was really written for the smaller business, because what I found is the bigger businesses that are paying me to do this for them are absolutely experiencing transformation, and the frustration when this would work really well for the smaller businesses, the sub 5 million. So I'd love to create a community of people who are going, okay, we're working this, it's informing the way we are changing the way we are mopping up all these people who are interested in the products and services that we've got, and then build a community where there's hopefully people listening to this podcast that are considerably smarter than I am, right? And it'd be great for people to come back and say, I've looked at this, I didn't quite get it, or I see a different angle on it, on what about all that. So actually it becomes, something that's just becomes a living, breathing new way of thinking about things. I do not want to be he who should not be mentioned. This is not what its intention is. It is a dissemination of now 35 years, but probably the last 20 years of understanding. And my only role is to engage the outside world from a business owner and inform a new type of leadership. So what I'd like to be remembered for is maybe this bucket thing's got something in it. Really, that's it. Really, nothing else. That'll do.
Good. Quite philosophical. Quite philosophical. Barnaby, thank you very, very much, as usual, for bashing my head, which is always part of what you seem to do, and challenging and provoking and prodding and encouraging everyone to be better than they are. So all I can say is thank you very much for being a really excellent podcast guest. Thank you very much indeed.